Golden hour. I know that's not really a thing anymore, but I still like it. No. Okay. Let's see where my button is by the end of this, because I can already feel it shifting backward. Chapter 12. I can't wait. I don't know how I'm going to do the different voices with Savannah and Deborah and Shelly, so I apologize in advance. Chapter 12. Second Chances. Tickets were unavailable for Shelly and Savannah to leave the day of their decision, as John had insisted they would be. One day later, on Saturday, there were a couple of open spots on a mid-morning departure. Without hesitation, they booked that flight. The night before they left, Shelly and John laid in bed, awake, staring at the ceiling. "You're beautiful," John said. "Thanks," Shelly responded. "You're handsome." "You're beautiful and you're kind and you're a good person. Just remember that while you're gone, okay?" Her cupped hands pressed against her stomach. It felt like her husband was prepping her for some big sports match, or even worse, war. "I'll remember," she said. Switching to his side, every feature of John's face, excluding his mouth, held still. He didn't blink as he said, "Don't spend too much time at once with her. It always affects you poorly. Avoid disagreements if you can. Those tend to end badly." "I get it." Shelley tried to wave him off, but he grabbed her hands and intertwined his fingers with hers. "Most importantly, Shelley," he said, "you need to know this. A person who doesn't want help cannot receive it. You can't help her if she won't let you." After a goodnight kiss, John returned back to his normal position on the mattress and fell asleep. Shelley stayed awake. More than the praises he gave, his advice held a vivid place in her mind. Shelley understood why he had insisted upon her acting this way around her mother, but she didn't know that she should or could. It bothered her to imagine what it might mean if his thoughts were true, and if John really had reason to worry. Before she could notice herself slipping, Shelley fell asleep. As she stirred, she mumbled incoherent sentences about milk and something being too much. In the morning, Shelley visited Amber, seeking last-minute time alone with her friend. If she could, Shelley would have skipped her trip, left her mommy issues at the curb, and stayed with Amber. But she had to go. Things wouldn't change without action. At least she had time to say a temporary goodbye to her friend. It helped that they lived no more than a few steps away. At Amber's apartment, they talked over multiple topics, most of them unmemorable. Casual conversations to aid Shelley in releasing tension before her big trip. Little things like plush pillows and soft blankets made Shelley feel like she couldn't get hurt in this home. Happy photos of Amber and Lucas reinforced this idea. They posed at different vacation spots, their time at the World Cup Series in Omaha, the time when Amber ran the Boston Marathon, and their most recent, the honeymoon at Yellowstone. Before Shelley left, Amber confided in her about a dilemma that tempted Shelley to abandon the airplane at the airport. "My parents asked me if I'm going to keep the baby," she said. "What?" Shelley said. "I know. It doesn't sound good. Lucas's family is all on board. They've started talking about baby books and baby showers and baby gender reveals. Mine are concerned that we're too young for this. I mean, it wasn't planned." With her throat as tight as if she were wearing a noose, Shelley couldn't speak. She waited until there was enough room to get the words out. "Do you think you're too young?" "No. Well, yes. I wouldn't have chosen this. I don't know. It's nerve-wracking. Both of my parents are concerned about how this will affect my ability to train clients at the gym and start my fitness YouTube channel. They weren't trying to convince me I shouldn't have a baby. They were making sure this is what we want." And it gave me a lot to think about. I mean, it's hard enough growing and raising one kid, but, well, we're having twins. The room felt warm. Someone needed to turn the heater off. "Wow," Shelley said. "Twins. Surprise." Amber looked up at the ceiling. "So I'm pretty sure having twins will make it harder to be a trainer, at least by the third trimester. I already have a bump. Morning sickness was hell, but I've gone through that." "Wait, how far along are you?" "I'm officially 13 weeks. "Wow." The enthusiasm fell as flat as Shelley's face. Her friend had made it through the first trimester. Good. Shelley hadn't. Shelley was hot, and the pillow under her felt like a stiff lump. She might as well try relaxing on a jagged rock. "I have to go to the bathroom," she said, forgetting to wait for a response before leaving. Shelley disappeared to the back, and, behind a closed door, she unraveled. The mirror showed her what it looked like as she cried. Gathering her sleeves up into her hands, she muffled any sounds. Her face softened and swelled. Her eyes became bloodshot, the outline of them looking like the rest of her, puffy and red. Amber had the choice to keep the babies. Shelley knew her friend would keep the babies. The suggested abortion didn't matter, shouldn't matter, because it was irrelevant. Amber hadn't chosen to get pregnant, but she could choose. She could choose to keep her children. She would choose to keep her children. Amber had the choice. Shelly hadn't. She wished she had. It killed her inside to know she couldn't have done anything to keep her baby, to make it all better, to make it all okay. Everything felt twisted and turned upside down and torn. There had to be a right way of thinking about this, to be there for her friend, to not lose herself to the growing pit of sorrow. Don't overreact, she told herself. Amber is in a different situation. She's not going to do it. Yes, her parents think differently, but they have their own logic. It doesn't mean the same to them as it does to you. The burning of her throat calmed as the boiling in her heart turned to a simmer. Breathing out was like releasing steam. It's okay, she told herself. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Once finished, she dried her cheeks and waited for them to return from rosy to a blotchy pale, the best she could ask for at the moment. After a few more mumblings, forced reassurance, and tissue blotting, Shelly left the bathroom and closed the door behind her. When Shelly re-entered the living room, Amber asked her if she was okay. Slowly moving from standing to sitting, Shelly mumbled and waved her hand through the air. Together, Shelly and Amber created a few quiet moments in the air. One day, new photos would replace the ones on the wall, and they would include Amber, Lucas, and 2 small children. Except the photos wouldn't go on the wall Shelly looked at now. No, her friends would need to move. Maybe a 1-bedroom apartment could work with 1 baby, but not with 2. They'd have a new apartment, with new photos, with a new family. It was wonderful, and Shelly felt awful. She could no longer keep her eyes open without crying, and her lids snapped together like a rubber band that had stretched too far. Coughing through the wetness from her nose and eyes, Shelly spoke. Amber, I'm sorry. Sorry? Why are you sorry? I'm just so sorry. Her breaths came in heaves. I know I shouldn't be bothered by your parents, and I get why they wouldn't want you to have the abortion, but I'm bothered, and I don't think I can help it, and I'm so sorry. Shelly, come here. You don't need to be sorry. I mean, I'm not getting an abortion. You know that, right? Shelly nodded, rubbing her head up and down Amber's shoulder. Right. Honestly, my parents wanted to make sure I was okay, but you don't need to be sorry, okay? The shoulder of Amber's delicate blouse had wet spots, but she held her friend close. Shelly, can I ask why you're so upset? Is it just my parents' suggestion, or is it something else? She could tell her. The option existed, divulge the miscarriage information. Shelly knew that hiding things took energy. She had felt that for years. Too many words unspoken. Someone needed to know. If she told Amber, then John could tell Lucas and release a burden of his own. For the first time, Shelly wanted to say something about it. Her mouth opened for a second, but her bravery didn't last any longer than that. Why draw people into the worst parts of her life? Why did it matter if anyone else knew? It couldn't change the past, and sad stories made sad people. Even worse, what if she started confessing and didn't stop? There were so many emotions she had to keep tamed, and like wild beasts, any shock may make them run wild and escape, let loose into the unknown. Best to keep it in. For the time being, she could handle this alone. No need to drop a bomb before leaving on a plane. No, nothing's wrong, Shelly said. Not really. I think I'm nervous about this whole mom situation. That's hard. Look, Shelly. A slight frown colored Amber's face. Instinct, intuition, inference, all could have been wrong, but in that moment with her friend, Shelly thought her miscarriage might not be as in the shadows as she had supposed. It might be hiding in plain sight. One person could have passed on that information. John must have told Lucas a long time ago. Shelly's heart raced. Run. That's what the pumping blood in her veins signaled her body to do. How embarrassing to think she had secrets when they were so obviously known. Why had John said anything? The pain, the way he cried the night after the hospital visit. John didn't cry unless an emotion became unbearable. Unlike Shelly, he didn't shelter others from his pain. He must have told Lucas. If he needed a friend to know, then she understood. He deserved that. I'm here for you, Amber said. If Amber didn't bring it up, maybe she didn't know. Maybe she did. There weren't any minutes left for questioning her friend. She needed to go back home, get her duffel bag and sister, and catch the train to the airport. When she came back, she would figure out who knew what. Even if Amber did know, Shelly wanted the chance to tell her about it herself, to explain that she was all right. Everything was all right. Thanks, Shelly said. I won't be gone long. Good. I need someone to take my mind off all these ridiculous pregnancy symptoms. I mean, come on. Can't anything be comfortable? Shelly made a small laugh, grateful for some comedic relief. How long will you be gone? Amber asked. We haven't bought the return tickets yet. Savannah wanted to feel it out. Shelly rolled her eyes. I'm guessing we'll fly back after a week, but I'll definitely be back by my anniversary with John. Oh, I can't believe that's coming up. When is that? 2 weeks, October 16th. Wow, 2 years? Amber said. 2 years. Throughout the entire train ride to Salt Lake City, Savannah had complained about their mother. The front runner could reach up to 70 miles an hour, but an hour was still an hour. While an hour of painting would have gone by without Shelly's notice, an hour of, she doesn't even try, she's too unaware, she thinks she knows everything, dragged on. Each time Savannah said something negative about their mother, she thought about ignoring it, but instead she pointed out flaws in her thinking. Mom does try. No one can be aware of everything. And I doubt she thinks that. She's giving her best advice. Once Savannah gave her rebuttal, Shelly could drop it. She had stood up for her mom. By the time they were in the security line, Savannah relayed more dread about their upcoming visit. How long until you think she'll criticize one of us? People shuffled forward. The steps gave Shelly time to think. One person was ahead of them, and then they would go to the TSA officer's desk. She wished she could wait longer to respond, delayed until they had to give up their IDs and couldn't converse. The trip there would be easier if her sister would pretend there was a possibility of everything going right. When she saw the TSA officer hand back the ID to the person ahead of them, Shelly responded, "Well, I think, it's our turn." She turned her back to her sister. There, it was like she had no one to respond to. Not much later, the airport security shouted, "All electronics and shoes in the bin." As Shelly untied her brown Keds, Savannah reappeared. "I think it will take 2 seconds, a minute at most, maybe 5 minutes if I'm being deluded about it," Savannah said with a remiss toss of her carry-on onto the rolling conveyor belt. Tossing her Keds and cotton jacket into a bin, Shelly answered, "I like to think it's not that crazy to believe Mom would be nice to us for more than 5 minutes. You can believe it, but you're wrong. It could have taken shorter for Shelly to move the electronics from her backpack into the gray bins. If it did, she would have landed in line right behind Savannah, who only had her carry-on in a purse. The conversation could have carried on. Shelly thought of this, and when she did, she slowed her movements down more than before. Her lethargic lift of her duffel bag made it look like it weighed 100 pounds. Even her phone seemed a weighty item when she moved it into a bin. With her items rolling away and into the scanner, she needed to step into the line for the metal detector. Without wasting an opportunity to waste time and avoid the conversation further, she stretched her arms wide and pulled off her best fake yawn. By the time she went through the metal detector, retrieved her items, and put her shoes and jacket back on, her sister had a Starbucks drink in her hand. "Ready?" Savannah said, an eyebrow raised. "Sure," Shelly said. During the walk to their gate and the wait to board, neither said anything. Once they were on the plane, Savannah couldn't sit still in her seat. She swung her legs to the side and back in whenever a person needed to pass by. Wherever her heels were planted, they bounced up and down. Eventually her hands struck a drum roll against her lap. "What are you doing?" Shelly said. In her youth, families from Shelly's church would ask her to babysit their children. She hardly ever enjoyed it. Kids were cute to look at, but as a teenager, Shelly could not handle the stress and demand that came with them. Children complained about food that the parents would tell her to make, they ignored the instructions that the parents directed her to give, and they never went to sleep by the bedtime the parents assigned. These grievances, all crammed into tiny New York apartments, were too much. It wasn't until adulthood, when she met John's nieces and nephews, that Shelly had decided children were worth the tussle. Experiencing the airport with her sister, Shelly concluded she'd much rather have a kid accompanying her on the flight. After all, it's easier to babysit children than to babysit adults. "Savannah, stop bouncing." "Relax, Shelly. I'm just excited." "Seriously?" Shelly said. "What? I love airplanes. It makes my stomach feel all jiggly when we take off." Savannah shivered. "Ooh, it's the best." Shelly opened her window cover and shut it again. Over a 4-hour flight. Shelly corrected herself. Under a 5-hour flight. "Stay positive," she rehearsed in her head. "A non-stop flight. Free movies. They make it to New York City in 2 movies and a television show. Not bad." Savannah bounced again. "Savannah!" "Sorry." "You're 25. You're older than me. You need to stop." Savannah gave Shelly a snarky side eye and picked up the airline magazine. Between the covers were countless items she would likely see nowhere else but those pages. Whenever the flight attendant paused in giving vital life-saving instructions, Shelly amused herself by glancing over her sister's shoulder and looking at the different items. Once the demonstrations finished and the mystery woman's voice stopped projecting over the speakers, Savannah put away the magazine and prevented her sister from seizing secret pleasure from it. Discontented but moving toward acceptance, Shelly tapped the gray plastic armrest. Her finger pulsed to no apparent rhythm and changed frequently as she thought through all that had led her to that plain seat. Next to her, a movie played on the screen in front of Savannah, centered on the back of someone else's chair. Savannah noticed Shelly. Want to listen? Sure, Shelly said, accepting an earbud. Nudging her fist up between them, Shelly rested her head and relaxed as a Shakespeare-inspired teenage romantic comedy continued to play. Those were their favorite to watch when their family all lived in one home. Brandon used to complain about them. The girls didn't understand why he first disliked the movies or how they were girly and boring. It must have grown on him eventually because before Shelly moved to New York with her mom, before Brandon went to university, and before Savannah adopted Dad as an only parent, they had watched the film together. One ginormous blanket, 3 almost grown-up kids. Eventually, Shelly turned her face from the screen to the closed window, listening to the actors spew words about love dilemmas and lady etiquette. When she tired from attending to that, her mind gave way to sleep and played a dream. Milk. Pouring milk, Shelly fills her presence. Mrs. Lancaster stands behind her shoulder. You're doing it wrong. Her mother's ponytail itches the back of Shelly's neck. Do it like this. The milk won't fill the cup, but Shelly keeps pouring. She keeps waiting. It will come. Mom, let me do it. No! It's thunder, a boom that shakes Shelly and splashes milk onto the counter. You need to do it like this. Listen to me. Shelly! The cup starts to fill. Shelly focuses on the milk and feels her mom's breath on her as she says, You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. The milk rises past halfway. Mom, stop it. It's 3/4 full. Stop it. Stop it. It's reached the glass's edge. Stop! Stop! The milk overflows. Glass shatters as the cup collides with the ground. A field. Yellow grass. A school bus. In the background, behind her, a red brick school and Owen, running down the sidewalk. Owen, come on! See, Shelly? He calls backward. This is why you need to get into sports. You're too slow. Shelly clenches her fists and pounds them into the air as she sprints after Owen. Shocked, he laughs and runs toward the school's side doors. He disappears. Her knuckles pop as she clenches her fists tighter. The boys' locker room is a few leaps away from that entrance. Shelly's kneeling against the sidewalk. It's so cold it burns her knees, the only thing exposed in her ripped jeans. She curls up. All she sees is darkness, her skin, and blue denim. Into her arms, she says, Owen, come on. I'll buy you lunch. She hears his laugh. Sorry, Shelly, you're not winning this one. The cold's gone. The morning air is now stale. Shelly sits against a white wall, waiting, watching a metal door. She gets the feeling she's been waiting there for too long. The hall darkens, then bursts with light. The metal door opens. Owen walks out of the boys' locker room, hunched over, sulking. Here's this. Shelly moves her thumbs over her phone screen, as if she could sense what he saw on it, simply by circling her fingers around it. She stands up. I have class. She stands 10 feet away from him. The hallway in front of her doesn't end. Shelly, I saw your list. She stands 4 steps away from him. She looks back. She stares ahead. Shelly, maybe you should talk to someone. I could help. I think my parents could help. No, she says. I don't need to talk, she says. I need to let it go, she says. I'm deleting the list. Face to face with Owen, Shelly sees the fluorescence highlight Owen's dejected dark brown eyes. She stands 10 feet away. In a few steps, she is at the end of the hallway. She opens the note on her phone. She presses the trash button. Sitting on the floor in front of the metal door, she watches Owen say something he never said. Are you sure you want to do this? Shelly, Shelly, Shelly. Shelly opened her eyes. Underneath her nail beds, she found white and red skin from her aching scalp. The movie had not ended yet. She groaned. I'm awake, Savannah. What were you dreaming about? Savannah ignored the movie and surveyed Shelly's face cautiously. What? You kept saying no, no, no. You were nearly shouting, and this plane's too quiet for that not to attract attention. Other people had heard her. This thought stuck. Shelly peered around her sister and saw a man eating his plain peanuts, scattering salty crumbs over his red polo. He stared across the aisle in her direction. Then, clearly not due to any courtesy and exclusively due to a more enticing entertainment, the man lethargically turned his head away and back to his laptop screen. Green lasers blasted into a computer character, and Shelly returned to the conversation. I hate when people look at me. She reached to the back of her neck but didn't scratch. The skin felt raw, softened, and throbbing. Was it really that loud? Savannah opened her mouth to answer but paused when a young airline attendant strolled up with the cart. Can I get you a snack or a beverage? He said. It's your last chance before the flight ends. For a second, his smile dazed Savannah. I'll take some water, please. Savannah rarely used that word, the magic word, as some referred to it. The attendant attentively handed her the water, and she showed him her cheerleader smile. One and the same, Shelly thought. The young attendant's eyes lingered before moving to Shelly. I'm okay, she said. He nodded and then leaned in. You sure? You know, for nightmares, it sometimes helps to have a little something to smooth it over afterwards. Shelly sighed. I'll take a ginger ale. The attendant laughed to himself. Okay, he said as he filled a plastic cup, ice clinking. Shelly drank while he spoke more to Savannah, and as much as the situation intrigued her, she couldn't listen in. Instead, her thoughts swirled around like the ice cubes in the cup, and as she kept swirling, she felt that she would melt down. The attendant had to move on, and Savannah flipped around. What happened to your no sugar policy? She said. It's not a no sugar policy, and this is for the headache I now have. I can't believe that, even while unconscious, I embarrassed myself. Huh, Shelly, Savannah cooed. Don't worry about it. In a few minutes we'll be in New York, and you won't ever see these strangers again. Well, except for maybe Maxwell. Maxwell? Shelly didn't know a Maxwell, but... Actually, wait, there's no way we're almost to New York. Savannah, this is a 4-hour flight. Savannah paused the movie and pulled up the map, showing how far they were on their route. What? 20 minutes? The movie's not even done yet. Savannah laughed some more. I decided to rewatch it. You kept mumbling, so I figured I better stick to something I know. Plus, it's got Channing Tatum, our favorite childhood crush. Grabbing her sister's shoulder, Shelly said, Your favorite childhood crush. Oh, whatever. You liked him. Shelly half sighed, half yawned as she said, And Maxwell? Who's that? Maxwell's our flight attendant. He's going to show us around New York with some of his friends. What? We don't need him to show us around. We've both been there, and Mom can take us wherever we want to go. Shelly drank the rest of her ginger ale. That's true, but Mom's not going to take us to clubs. That'd be weird, and I've never been to the clubs there. Plus, Savannah's voice flattened. Mom will probably need time to work anyway. She's never not working. But Maxwell's a stranger. Actually, Maxwell's our flight attendant. Maybe you should sleep some more, otherwise you might start forgetting other things too. There was no way to reply without losing. Shelly had tried before, but whenever her sister started using passive-aggressive jokes, no sentence could conquer her. Joking back didn't work, since Savannah could come up with wittier, more cutting comments to say. Trying to reason with her didn't work, as she would refuse all seriousness, and Shelly would increase in indignation. Shelly said nothing and did her best to not reflect on the injustice or the incorrectness. As if she hadn't done anything to provoke her sister, Savannah asked, So, what was your dream about? Shelly didn't reply. Oh, okay. Savannah turned toward the aisle and didn't talk to Shelly the rest of the plane ride, even through the disembarking chaos. The drive to their mom's apartment lasted long enough for Savannah to forget about Shelly's dream and gab over other issues. Shelly forgot how tall the buildings in New York City were, and how many of them there were, and she used her eyes more frequently than her ears during the 30 minutes of her sister's dialect. The heights amazed her, but the second her eyes hit ground level, the feeling faded. It was still as dirty as she remembered. Black scuff marks covered everything, and when she cracked her window open, she could smell the smoke. For a time, Shelly recognized that her sister was discussing her disappointment in not riding with her newfound friend Maxwell, and how Shelly might have demonstrated more patience in waiting for him to finish a few work items and get his luggage. She didn't linger long on the subject, as Savannah's sincere desire to wait around the airport terminal was questionable, and she decided she would undoubtedly see Maxwell soon. Moving to the next subject, Savannah dragged on about the price of an Uber in the city, how much DoorDash might cost, and other uninteresting points for Shelly. As Shelly struggled to remember the surrounding sights in relation to the location of her mother's house, she thought about the last time she had visited her mom. Since Shelly had married John, Shelly's mom had been the one to fly out and visit them, aside from one unpleasant summer trip. John probably didn't even remember what her mom's apartment looked like. The few times when he came with Shelly to New York, before they married, he had stayed with a high school friend attending university there. He solely came to Mrs. Lancaster's apartment to pick up Shelly or have a homemade dinner with them. If he hadn't planned to ask Shelly's mother for permission to take her daughter's hand, and if he hadn't needed to meet her mother in person before the two married, he might have never gone there. In fact, John told Shelly that he didn't think he had to do either of those things, but Shelly did. Shelly wanted that because she knew her mom wanted that, and so he did them both. Yes, if she hadn't insisted upon it and he hadn't planned to get engaged to her, John may never have come face to face with her mother. Shelly knew how John felt. He had heard her mom on the phone enough, learned enough from the memories Shelly recounted, and saw enough in Shelly's disposition to know that he had not wanted to meet her mother. But he claimed that according to society, someone needed to have bad in-laws, and as flawed as some of his family was, they certainly couldn't play that part. They first visited Mrs. Lancaster just over 2 years ago. 1 year later, they visited again, and since then, they had not come to see her mother. Their money could not fulfill the airplane's tickets demands, and despite her mother's insistent offerings, they wouldn't allow her money to do it either. If Mrs. Lancaster paid for the travel, she would pay for everything else, and the idea of putting her single mother out over $1,000 didn't appeal to Shelly. Her mother would need that money. The car passed a restaurant with a cartoon sushi smiling, and Shelly tightened the buckle around her. "We're almost there," she said. Savannah said. Despite the nerves, Shelly grinned. "We're about to see Mom." "That's kind of exciting." "I'm more excited to go out in the city, but seeing Mom will be all right." "We can all go somewhere together. Maybe this will be good. This will be fun." Shelly wanted to have confidence in her hopeful feelings. "Do you think she'll even be home, or does she go into work on the weekends now?" Savannah asked. How did they not think of that? Maybe her boss would have her working this Saturday, or maybe she'd be out with Arya, or maybe she had other friends that she went out with. Probably not that last one. The others seemed possible, though, and Shelly didn't want to wait too long for their mini-family reunion. "Man, I do not want to stand outside that apartment for hours," Savannah groaned. "Do you have her door key app thing?" Shelly grimaced. "No. I'm gonna text Maxwell." "No! Let's wait and see. If she's not there, then maybe you can text Maxwell, or we could spoil the surprise a little early and call her." "Mom loves surprises. We don't want to start this whole trip by ruining one for her," Savannah said, eyes trained on her phone. After that, Savannah didn't mention going anywhere with anyone, so Shelly assumed that she didn't text Maxwell about coming to save them. Within the next 5 minutes or so, their Uber man dropped them off, almost drove off before they grabbed their luggage from the trunk, and then left them staring at the tall apartment complex. Not willing to stand out too much, considering they were two girls with full luggage and bags, both gaping at a building, they walked inside. The doorman, Victor, welcomed them as they walked in and asked on what occasion they came to visit and whom they intended to see. They explained that they came to see their mother, Deborah Lancaster, and they had planned a surprise visit for her, but did not think through whether or not she would be home, so they might need his help to get in. Victor knew a lot about their mom, more than most other residents, he commented. Whenever she passed him, she said hi and asked him about his day, and treated him as nicely as she could treat anyone else. "Maybe more," Savannah muttered. Victor didn't hear. "Surprise visit or not, I'm surprised. I think Deborah might have mentioned a suspicion that her daughters were coming to see her." He put his hand up and his eyes lingered on the ceiling. "Humph. But the other day Deborah mentioned how much she missed her children and how they were too busy to bother to visit." His eyes dropped back down to the girls as he hummed to himself. "Interesting." The two didn't quite know what to say. Even without talking to them, their mom had inflicted guilt upon them. "This is all out of the blue," Savannah spoke up. "We thought it'd be more fun as a surprise. We didn't even know we were going to come, but here we are." Victor didn't reply. "And we don't want to have to wait around with all this luggage," Savannah said. "I do have a lot of valuables in here." "Oh," he said. "Well, you don't need to worry about that. Your mother's home, so I imagine that, being her daughters, she'll happily let you two in." "Oh, great, thank you," Shelly said, walking off with her duffel bag bumping against her hip. Savannah thanked him as well and strolled up to Shelly's side, the wheels on her cream-colored, hard-shell suitcase and carry-on moving with ease. "He was chatty," she said. "Could have told us that she was here sooner." Instead of commenting, Shelly walked up to the brass elevators, pressed the light-up button, and one set of doors slid open. Walking in before Savannah, Shelly dropped her duffel bag and leaned against the railing. Another downside of being poor. Forced exercise. Gliding in after her, Savannah clutched the handles of her suitcase and carry-on, and the doors closed. "Well, this will be fun." She paused and gave a brief glance at Shelly. "Can't believe we're actually doing this." She looked at Shelly again. Here we go," Savannah said. No response. "Mom's going to be in for one bitch." "Don't swear." Shelly rolled her eyes. Satisfied, Savannah stayed silent. The two walked out of the elevator and strolled over the black floor, a slight echo coming from the tiny luggage wheels. Each identically tanned door contained another New Yorker with another story, but more likely than not, no one in that hall knew each other, except by the noises that sometimes leaked through the walls and the wreaths that some people hung on their door. One door they passed had loud pop music playing, and Shelly immediately thought of a teenage girl taking advantage of her alone time at home. Savannah smirked, but Shelly stopped. "What?" Savannah asked. "We're here." Shelly turned her head to the left toward apartment 513. "Wow, yeah. What an ugly combination of numbers. You think—" Shelly let out a noise. "Whoa, what's going on? Are you shaking?" Shelly couldn't answer the question. She didn't feel any shaking. Disregard that. Her fingers were trembling, twitching. Breathing sounded like wheezing. She couldn't hold a thought for longer than 3 seconds before she reimagined the antagonizing scene, encountering her mother. A few seconds passed and she replied, don't worry about it. I'm fine. Are you? I don't know. I was excited in the car, but I don't know. She wanted to see her mom. She had wanted to come to New York to see her mom for many months, more than a year. But money aside, she continuously chose to put it off. Because her mom inevitably came to see her before the year ended, Shelly would lose the impulse that she needed to fly out to see her mom. If, after a time, she felt it again, the whole process would repeat. Despite the compassion her sister thought she had, Savannah couldn't understand. Shelly felt certain of this. Savannah had seen their mother much less than Shelly, and she still did not care to see her. Her therapist cared that Savannah saw her. Her sister seemed to distinctly desire to set expectations straight, get her mother to follow some relationship guidelines, and go have fun with Maxwell and his friends. Of course, she couldn't see her mom in a panic like this. She forced her breaths to go deeper, take longer. As her breathing slowed, her fingers stopped twitching and she could collect herself again. Okay, sorry, Shelly said. Let's knock. They stood. Do you think she'll be mad? What? Savannah sounded disgusted. She'll be happy. She's been begging to see us. Or attempting to beg. You're right, Shelly said. This will be good. Yeah, this will be good. Let's knock. They stood. Avoiding the homemade wreath of fall leaves and acorns, Savannah reached forward and briskly pounded on the front door. No feet sounded. Some time passed with no mother appearing. For some reason, when a person expects to meet someone at their residence and the knock does not get answered, it then becomes the custom for them to step closer to the door. Maybe some feel this will force it to open, or maybe others want to listen for some confirmation of human presence within the walls. Shelly and Savannah stepped forward for the latter. It sounds like she's watching TV, Shelly said. Should we call her? No, let's ring the doorbell first. She probably didn't hear the knock. She'll come this time. A standard ring sounded after Shelly pressed the round white doorbell. The television paused and patters against the ground indicated that their mother was coming closer. Shelly didn't notice a peephole, so she held her breath and waited for the big reveal. Click, click. Deborah spoke as soon as her voice could possibly be heard. Arya, is something wrong with your... Their mother's mouth burst open and her voice erupted into a giant shriek. End of chapter! Yay! If you like this video, like this video. If you want to see the following chapter, subscribe. You can buy the book to read ahead or to read along. And thanks so much, guys. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye!